Extraction.
Hey everyone, this is Monarchy, and let's get into this video, this topic. Meanwhile, as you could see, um, login bonus. So just to give you guys an idea how NGS, PSO2, and other type of games will convince you thinking it's not free to play. However, games like these, like MMORPG, Genshin Impact, like Gacha, and so on and so forth, that use these type of strategies to get you hooked into like how PvE and PvP can be pay to win. So let's get into what Spikesu is talking about.
Basically, what you're saying is it's a 2-year-old MMO game from China that someone decided, let's try and make some money with a global release because why not? Which explains the aggressive pay-to-win shop because that was installed 2 years ago. Okay, so this is talking about pretty much obviously what you're seeing here, a game that was brought over from China that released a while ago and now just got released here. You may be able to figure out the pieces if you were aware of what games got released here lately, but it's not about the game, so that's what I'm not saying. But nonetheless, I saw a response within this comment section, and it said this: how do you pay to win in PvE? How about you actually know what you're talking about before counting nonsense? Dude, I see this comment, this argument so often, and it blows my mind every time I see it because people cannot comprehend, for some reason, that PvE games can be P to win.
I agree.
Pay to win. I say one of the P2W or pay to win. so these games can be pay to win. The PvE doesn't matter if it's PvE or PvP. These MMO games can be each and other whatever. Does not matter. And I'm going to explain to you the thought process that goes behind these people and why they think this and why they got some issues going on there and as to why they're thinking this. And I'm going to explain to you some examples as to how PvE can be P2W. I said that's right. Pay to is it can be
P2W.
So pay to or pay two like number two.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So let's hop in here and drop all these bombs. That way we can finally make sure that all this is cleared up and this will never happen again. Even though it will, because we know people don't listen and people just like complaining. But first, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously. Thank you very much. So let me first break down how these people are. So pretty much this whole thing and why there are some people who just constantly think this, that if it's a PvE game, player versus environment, then it can't be paid to win. This is pretty much, I'm going to break this down from a psychological standpoint.
Okay.
This is what is going on with these individuals. Pretty much people who say this live their whole lives around confrontation. Because to them, the only way that they can prove themselves or add value to their lives is by conflict with others. So that's it.
That is an interesting.
It's so heavily on the PvP, they cannot understand the PvE concept and and it being paid to win. There being paid to win elements in that PvE concept, or people being real aggressive about gearing or so with it being PvE, because in their mind they have to do everything around conflict. There has to always be some sort of competition in their head. That's how their brain works. There has to always be some sort of competition because they cannot find inner peace within themselves. Their worth to themselves is only worth as much as an outward energy gives to them. So what I'm saying is that their worth has to be proven by something else. They don't know. They can't find their own worth defend themselves or what they're doing. So that has to be justified from outside sources.
Interesting take.
That's what's going on here. That's why. And look, sorry if I just called you out, but look, I just keep on 100. I tell you how it is. That's what's going on here. That's the issue. And that's why you're always trying to find conflict.
Okay, so that is very interesting. Take how he approached that. Um, so what I know for people that doesn't want to accept it, or people that turn a blind eye towards that state of affairs, because one, they're completely fanboys or fangirls, is just erasing what the company or management trying to convince you otherwise. So, um, PvE and PvP, they're both are able to be pay to win. Let's, I'm gonna say it as frank and clear about that. I do agree with Spike Sue on that. Um, this mental gymnastic type of thing of, is it true, or how, the question is, how would players be able to do certain type of thing or see it that way, how he been explaining on the way or the habit, how you interpret on I think the best way to say it is how he said it. But let's see, let's repeat that.
How do these people? So pretty much this whole thing and why people, there are some people who just constantly think this, that if it's a PvE game, player versus environment, then it can't be paid to win. This
It
is
can't.
pretty much, I'm going to break this down from a psychological standpoint. This is what is going on with these individuals. Pretty much people who say this live their whole lives around confrontation. Because to them, the only way that they can prove themselves or add value to their lives is by conflict with others.
Okay, so in PvP standpoint, you have to have a some type of goal and conflict with other players. So you're being competitive into pretty much showboating, so showing off. Who has the better stats? Who has the bigger stats? So in Genshin, fuck, no, sorry, NGS point of view, the way they want you to do that, or the company wants you to do that, is by treating you in, like, let's go to here really quick. So the reward system, supposedly, but like, what can you have the upper edge of another player? Outfits. NGS is big on outfits. So who could dress up better? Who could look better? Who could be, you know, outshine the rest? Outfits is one way to go. But also dividing these scratch tickets by AC and SG is by another way of using pay to win aspect or whales to get them what they want, but also get other players addicted to that mentality or that mindset. Because if NGS copied, copy Homer and try to do like
The staff enjoyed it
scratching
afterwards.
tickets in Genshin Impact, it would be the same thing. Either if you want to pay out of your pocket or earn your way to get cosmetics and, other goodies here and there, as well as like support items. But they broke that into two parts. So if you're just going to be full out free to play, you're going to be underneath players that is whaling and is paying to win. So it's a good analogy how Spike Suit came up with this.
But that's it. This is why they lean so heavily on the PvP. They cannot understand the PvE concept and, and it being pay to win. There being pay to win elements in that PvE concept. Or, people being real aggressive about, gearing or so with it being PvE. Because in their mind, they have to do everything around conflict. There has to always be some sort of competition in their head. That's how their brain works. There has to always be some sort of competition because they cannot find inner peace within themselves. Their worth to themselves is only worth as much as an outward energy gives to them.
Okay, so with that, so think of that as the best in slot, supposedly. Best in slot, people put that mindset into other players. So they could get the satisfaction of, I have the best gear. But if you want to be like me, you had to pay to win or pay to get the best gear. So with that in mind, they're gonna say you had to buy support items in order for you could be like me. So those type of players with that mentality, like you said, they're always trying to be like Pokemon. You want to be the very best, like no one never was. So that is the manipulation of the company. So Sega put in that in everyone's head, and also people that has that trigger of speeding through everything throughout the game, regardless if it's NGS, it could be any game. So like I've always been saying, whether you want to be the tortoise or the hare, the faster you complete everything, you're gonna lose, but at the same time you're not losing. But they put that in your head that you're not gonna lose. You're gonna always win because you're gonna be ahead of the game. So that mentality and mindset is creating FOMO. And the people that slowly participate and taking their time, it doesn't really create FOMO, but it depending on each individual. But it will still be there in your head because you're either not participating with the rest of the group or you are. But and to get to point A to point B, you had to get somewhat prepared. Either it's going to take you longer in earning your stuff the right way, or this is the new fanatic, the new fun, and the new like I don't want to say edge, but you know, energy drink, that rush that you need to pay to get to whatever place that you want to get to. So that he pretty much covered it. He hit the nail on the head.
So what I'm saying is that their worth has to be proven by something else. They don't know. They can't find their own worth within themselves or what they're doing. So it has to be justified from outside sources.
Uh, that too, but also depending on the person, because what if um, let's go back to the shop. Okay, so getting support items, they're gonna have a some type of objective, some goal that the company has given them. So since there isn't no trading, supposedly technically, but there is a way to bypass the system. Okay, but now they're they have done that, but now how they could spread out their wealth as they are getting income, or they have income rolling, and they're throwing out to kind of exploit the system, but at the same time not exactly. So they're gaining income by exploiting of others, to manipulate others, of like, for an example, here, these are good, these are the augments, or these are the materials that you need to gain in a certain level to be a par like everyone else. So like best in slot, or you know, the best build, or this is meta, right? So that's how certain players and the company or the management that's involved in this type of scheme that will try to manipulate everyone so they could just, you know, pay up front so they could get the easy money. Because there are certain games that companies will use to just suck you dry and not reward you of a good game, and the game that you should be playing for fun. Now it's like their type of meta or trend that they're like, okay, we're gonna make this game, but we're gonna make it like of we're gonna take advantage of the consumers and not uh, give them what they ask for, but at the same time, you know, sprinkle a little hope here and there. And if shit hits the fan, we might have to give them a little bit of something, but not like full complete. So we could still manipulate and keep taking advantage of this. Once a company has done that and they're seeing that it's working, it's called greed. And they're going to keep on using that same type of mentality. And from all these games that has been from Sony, PlayStation, Xbox, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sega, okay? How greed went in Nintendo. So why you think Pokemon, it's how it is today. And then now they're suing Power World because Power World is giving the complete game. and also giving DLCs for free. And it's somewhat competitive to Pokemon. But in the exactly same time, Palworld is not Pokemon. There might somewhat similarities, but each and every game has somewhat similarities, similar to one another. So Pokemon copied from past games. Pokemon used to be a card game. It was copying Yu-Gi-Oh! And vice versa. And Monster Rancher, Mega Man, and the list goes on from there. The Pokemon is taking certain mechanics, main components of mechanics that's already been throughout ages ago. It came from shooters. It came from MMO, RPG, JRPG. You know, WoW. Things can continue even further down the line by arcade
Scanning.
games and retro games. The very oldest games in the book that Pokemon has, trying to say that, claim that is theirs. In reality, it's not theirs. They just want to have that claim so there won't be no other competitors. But let's keep it, away from that. Let's say if I want to build something like Pokemon or Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or anything like that, and they Pokemon Game Freak or Nintendo come up to me and say you cannot do that. I just say F1, F off. If you don't want the game, I won't put it in your company. Plain and simple. Case closed. No questions asked. And give it the rest of the people that wants to play the game. Because I could play, fastball and constrict certain companies or certain countries that shouldn't be playing. That probably may going to happen, like Nintendo Switch 2. How um, they're trying to minimize and for you to concentrate to like a narrow-minded mindset, for you could be exclusive to that thing. So same thing with um, PlayStation and like the fanboys, fangirls, whatever from any platform. They're gonna say exclusive is key. Exclusive's not key. That is your limitations. But you know that's competitive mindset of things as well. But that's getting a little bit off topic. But going sidetrack, a little sidetrack. But going back on topic is that things like this can ruin or get you into a habit, as well as you being FOMO of losing. And, it can go deeper. But just, I made it not as short and sweet, but sweet enough.
Pretty much. That's what's going on here. That's why. And look, sorry if I just called you out, but look, I just keep it on the 100. I tell how it is. That's what's going on here. That's the issue. And that's why you're always trying to find conflict. That's why you're always so obsessed with PvP. Because you have to find that conflict to try to justify yourself, to try to add value to yourself. That's that. But at any rate.
But also, just to add on to that, it can happen to co-op. If you're playing co-op, and that competitiveness that can persuade players or just yourself into another level. another mischief, we could say. But you know, enough said. It can be that you just love that type of style, but you never know who planted the seed into your head first.
Let's dive in here for some examples. We got through that. Some examples on what exactly are some things, some ways that P2W, let's say P or T or T, that pay to win can impact player risk environment. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm just gonna go down like a little.
You been working out?
First and foremost is premium gear or items.
Hi.
Right? So players can purchase powerful equipment, weapons or whatever, or items that have significantly stronger, abilities or whatnot than those obtainable through gameplay. These items may have unique stats or abilities that make content easier to clear. So that's pay to win. You're obviously getting an advantage here, right?
Agreed.
There's boosted progression, which plays right into that. Boosted progression. This is pay to win. You're progressing quicker than these other players. You know what I'm saying? Which obviously, if you're progressing quicker, that puts you in an advanced playing field where you can now have access to these other things quicker than these other people can. So now you have a jump on everything. That's okay. There's exclusive content access, right? Sometimes certain dungeons, raids, or story content may be locked behind paywalls, giving paying players access to rewards and progression paths unavailable to others. So is that enough for you? That's not enough. We keep going. Enhanced consumables. Sometimes there's potions or buffs or other consumables that provide significant in-game advantages. They might add a daily bonus onto what you can get or whatnot. These things are very much pay to win mechanics in the PvE that heavily impact.
Yeah, it's kind of like the what's it called? PSO2 event or something on that line. Oh, PSO2 day. That's pretty much used to be more towards pay to win, but also if you're a premium player, you know, that swayed you to gain a little extra something, like extra storages, extra, you know, they're gonna give you some bonuses every day, things like that, that you could have an edge to increase your equipment and for like a boost or buff to defeat enemies a little bit faster or gains more in-game currency, things like that that can happen regardless what game that you're playing. But let's go on.
The playing experience of those who would not be playing and those who are paying gives them a heavy advantage across the board. Now they can access things quicker, which allows them to progress quicker, which allows them to maybe control markets.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
All the above. There's very strong pay to win elements. Plus, we can keep going. We're not done. We can keep going. There's also pay to skip mechanics. Sometimes they have the skip mechanics within games where you can just completely skip stuff. That adds another layer there, which other people will have to go through that stuff.
I don't know if you guys can recall in NGS, there was a feature, or still is a feature, that you could skip your progress, but you need to buy or be premium to have access. I can't recall or don't remember, but let me know. But I know for a fact there is other games that has that mechanic, that either you pay to win or have a premium package, you're a premium member, so they will give you that benefit of the doubt that you can, if you have more characters, it would be faster for you, so you could get to the end game and start getting the things that you need.
which will obviously give you an advantage.
Yep.
Okay? Those premium classes or abilities.
This is it.
Sometimes they have
Bye-bye.
abilities that are locked behind pay to win, or classes that are locked behind pay to win. Or sometimes they have classes where, you have to use certain currencies to unlock the classes,
True.
right? And so if you're paying to win, if you're paying, then you can unlock those classes quicker, which gives you an advantage. Because now you have access to more classes.
This is it.
Now you
Yep.
have access to more classes, which
Bye-bye.
means you're able to do more things because you have multiple different classes. Okay? And because you have multiple different classes, you have access to multiple different materials or options or farming options.
To cut them off right there, that would give you a huge advantage in the players market, or in the market system, and how you could unbalance the economy in game. Just to keep in mind.
Which allows you to potentially have progressed, enhanced, know-how or ability to control or manipulate any type of markets or anything or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we done? No, we can keep going. We can keep going. There's inventory or storage upgrades sometimes. And pay to win.
This is it.
Which
True.
obviously impact very heavily. Because you don't have as much
Bye-bye.
inventory. Which can obviously give you a huge boost. Because you have more inventory slots or storage slots.
Especially in
Carry more. Perhaps you can go on a farming session. Farm a lot more stuff.
especially having advantage in the player market, and like you said, farming, grinding, um, bosses. Because if there's a game that you could constantly fight bosses or go in raids, because there are going to be a certain loophole there that you can take advantage and put it in the market if there is a trading and market
The live
system
concert
in
is
that
on right
those
now
type
in
of
Pretend
games.
City.
For a longer period of time. Which thing is you control longer markets. Or using more materials that you can make this item up. Or sell.
Hmm.
There's many different ways the game can be paid to win. It's PvE. Many different ways. And this can
This
impact
is
people
it.
who are not paying. If it's aggressive in this manner,
Bye-bye.
especially, then yeah, you kind of sucks yourself, right? You just kind of have to get by it. But all of these people who are paying to win are going to be much more in a better position. As you can see here, as I go through this list. Are we done yet? No, we can keep going. Let's reduce cooldown and timers. I kind of mentioned this before
is it.
with progression, but playing to reset dungeon or raid locked out, crafting items or other cooldowns, as players farm rewards more frequently than non-players, than non-paying players.
He's not lying.
I think that's pretty substantial. That's a pretty substantial win for a game to be pay to win in a player versus environment game. Doesn't have to always be about conflict, bro. Doesn't have to always be about conflict.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get right with that? You want to keep going? We keep going. There's premium currency for in-game benefits. Okay? The premium currency purchasable with real money can be used to buy powerful items, buffs, or services. Such as NPC, merchandise, whatever that make PvE content easier. It makes PvE content easier. And considering the game is a PvE game, or even if it's a PvE game has PvP elements, either way, we're focusing on PvE, right? So,
Before he keeps going on, in PvP or PvE or co-op games, there's a manipulation or a bypass or a glitch or whatever you want to call it, a cheat that or a hack, regardless what it is. You can manipulate in a certain way for you can have a more higher advantage. Like I said, the knowledge you gain, the more power you have. And the more power you have, the more knowledge you gain, it'd be 100 times easier to screw up the balance in the game and into a faster rate. So let's say if I want to take advantage of, what is this? Oh no. Well, let's start with this one. If I want to take advantage in the lab menu, enhancing or building my equipment, there will be like a glitch or a cheat or a bypass where you can manipulate the system that can think that you're doing one point or another. So you could harvest and gain so much if you just sell it. So you harvesting the items that you're gaining and certain things, but you're multiplying it a little bit and saving it and stashing it till in a certain set of time that you go to the player market. That's where, and especially in PvP standpoint or co-op or PvP, you could always manipulate the market and in your benefit. Most of the time, it's a stretch, but if there's a way to see this, if you're a solo player or a player that works in groups and that group has a certain advantage and certain mentality, they could manipulate the server or a certain part of um, the sandbox or whatever you want to call it. So let's say this area here has a different loophole of the market and materials and so on and so forth. And you could take advantage of this area. What about this area? That could also be a thing because each in individual areas has a different loophole of the market system. So, but in this case, this game doesn't have that. There are certain games that there's going to be different areas has a different loop of a market that it's not going to be the same. There's going to be different. So it would be different owners or the same owners that's manipulating the system. But if the bigger the group, the more manipulation that you could do in a server. But one person can technically take over one server, sorry. And yeah, that list can go on, but depending what kind of person you are.
Even still, it makes the PvE console easier. So the game is a PvE game, which means that this is going to give you access to all these things that all these other players need in order to, upgrade or enhance their character, or if there's a market, or this or that, right? That gives a huge advantage. It gives you a huge boost. That's pay to win. That's entirely pay to win. And then there's of course subscription-only perks. Subscriptions offer exclusive bonuses like increased drop rates, faster resource gathering, or access to better crafting recipes. And this can create a gap between paying and non-paying players.
Very much so.
The list can go on for ages and ages and ages. I don't understand why people, well, I do understand this is much on the very top of this segment right here. But I don't understand why people always try to make this argument that these PvE games cannot be pay to win.
Oh, they
You know
can.
what I'm saying? How do you pay to win in PvE? How about you actually know what you're talking about before commenting nonsense? Bro.
Okay, the person that made that comment is saying nonsense is either they're playing the game. What I mean is like playing the game is like how cops and try to find ways what you have done. So they're playing this mind game. So to convince you that it's not a real thing. See, that's just one person or several person that thinking like that. So think of fanboys. So Nintendo or PlayStation is, if they're really fans, or Sega fans, if they're saying, "Oh, the game is fine, the game is peachy, or the system is fine, it's peachy. Let's just pay this expensive $80 or the $400 or 500 the for the expensive device, or kind of get the gist that they're trying to sell you out to convince you to get that product or that game, or making you see that there's nothing problem in the game. They're trying to convince you, telling you that it's okay, things will get better, just join the ride. But join the ride or turning a blind eye or not to see what is actually going on is endangering what you're playing or what you love or what you want to get and own. Because, like, on devices, platforms, they're trying to tell you you don't own it. But if you buy it from us, let's say Nintendo Switch 2, if you're buying from us the Nintendo Switch 2, you'll be okay only if you do a normal mindset of things. If you're an innocent person, but if you're a person that is not innocent, that likes to customize, changing the color of your device, putting different ornaments, doing this and that, and maybe to have a certain advantage of, like, if you are an entertainer, you want the device that works for you, so you had to make it your own that works to benefit you. So, and depending on your environment, so that's where the company will say, don't do that. If you're customizing or modding or making a certain way that you're trying to own it, this device won't be yours, because we will see what you're gonna do. That goes back to games. So the TOS system, and they're telling you you shouldn't be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. Otherwise, you can, but you have to play that gray area. But depending what it is and what rules or what thing they're trying to enforce you to agree upon. So, with that being said, a equipment team for equip yourself into a mindset of buying the things that you have to win and keep winning. You have to keep buying, and that isn't good mindset or mentality, because they're gonna, once they take it away, they're like, oh, we're gonna take this away from you in a certain way, and you're gonna feel left out, or you're gonna feel like, what can I do? I'm in this weird position and I don't know what else to do, because, like, meta, for an example, or the best in slot, that could be a thing depending what game that you play. So they took it away because
The live concert is
they
complete.
lack
Thank
of
you for joining.
making the game better. or they don't want to make it better. They want to invest what you're paying them something else. So kind of like upgrading to iPhone 14 to iPhone 15, iPhone 16. From 14 to 16, it's gonna be the same thing. Just the only difference, maybe a little faster, different features, and they improve the camera, but they haven't improved the phone itself. It's the same shit. They just up upgraded. It's not an evolution of changing the tech industry. It's just we're here. We just made a little jump, and there you go. That's pretty much what it is. But let's continue.
I'm just letting y'all know right now. All y'all who are saying this stuff, this type of stuff, y'all sound really silly coming from someone who actually knows and understands what's going on here. A lot of times, a lot of these people who know what's going on here are the type of people who are like, okay, we see stuff and we're not bothered by it, so it's like whatever. So we see you saying this stuff, and it's like, bro, we know better than to even try to explain to this individual, because if they're thinking like this, they're probably the type who's very hard-headed in the first place, and they don't really retain information, or they cannot learn, pretty much. So, just being upfront, just keeping it real, and that's why it's just not worth the time. But I'm letting y'all know here, so hopefully y'all found this informative to understand that PvE games can be pay to win. And this concept that I've heard on multiple occasions throughout the years, that
The live concert is
somehow
complete. Thank you for
cannot
joining.
be pay to win. So it's like they try to negate all, like anything that people say, oh well, that's pay to win. It's like they pretty much like try to negate it all, as if it's impossible for a PvE game to be pay to win. Like, bro,
This is an emergency transmission. We have confirmed signs of renewed Dark Falls activity. We are preparing an interception operation. Please prepare to deploy.
Yeah, I found it very educational because it begs the question of where certain gamers stand on, you know, and it's a hot take or a hot topic that
This is an emergency transmission. We have confirmed signs
players,
of renewed Dark Falls
gamers,
activity. We are preparing an interception operation.
regardless what your
Please
gender
prepare to deploy.
it is or your sexuality, companies would use that in their advantage, and also players that want to manipulate a market system if there is a market system. And also there is another take on that. So if, let's say, if there isn't no market system, how would players take advantage? Well, there is a thing that you could get real money, in-game currency, so RMT is in play. So how does RMT in place in this? So let's say Genshin Impact for an example, and you're drawing, right? And you're getting certain character, and everybody has the same character, but maybe not the best character. So they're getting meta characters. So how would you get a meta character? They're going to have certain individual meta characters in certain accounts. They're going to have you just heard what I said, accounts. And also it's going to be plain, but they have certain equipment that you could just equip and have it ready to go how you want to play the game. So they're giving you a customizing option. So they're giving themselves option to satisfy certain customers, to give them a certain account number, a certain account ID so they could do that transaction once they get paid, or at the same time or something. I don't know how they do it, how that works, but elaborate with me and kind of get the idea. So with that being said, if you want the best meta character fully decked out, it's gonna cost you this amount of price, and it's not gonna be cheap. And you want certain more characters, more materials and things like that, they can't get it. That's why there's like bots doing certain things, and they're doing some more illegal shit. But let's say it's not illegal. Let's say it is or it isn't. And they're just making a profit. They're making money. But that's one way for RMT. You could do it any other game, even if it's a PvP, co-op, or PvE. Regardless what it is, there's many ways to use RMT. That's because of the early 2000s. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up why certain games, how it is, or how toxic environment of a certain games stays the way they left it, or it became that way because companies not doing shit, or they're doing the same shit. Just what it is. Yeah. Other than that, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
System override. Uploading.